Anyway, chapter 2.
Chapter 2. I mean, we'll get onto that a bit later because I mean, it kind of just tie into the narrative we'll be going through. But yeah, chapter 2. So this is just kind of give you an idea on the scope of like how much the promotion took off. So as I said, the first show was pretty much a success, and the promotion would then go on to sell out 11 consecutive shows at the Garage. It was during the first few shows, I think it might have been right after the first chapter when they did the second one, that the pair met Glenn Joseph, who had a background as a theatre actor, and he'd be brought in, essentially turning this duo into a trio who ran the company. So using their combined knowledge of the entertainment world and, of course, all their love of pro wrestling, they took progress from strength to strength. And as I kind of alluded to before, the group always booked with the mentality of they were fans and they were just booking what they wanted to see. And that generally translates well to the wrestling audience, because if it's fans booking it, then typically fans are going to flock to the kind of card you put on. The success was getting so big that Progress eventually had to move to the 700 capacity Electric Ballroom in Camden, with the first show there taking place on March 2014. And that obviously marked the 2-year anniversary at that point as well. It continued the trend of them using historic music venues, and not to mention them placing it in an area of London that's rich with sort of alternative music history. Obviously, Camden is synonymous with the punk scene and then the indie boom in the 2000s. To date, Progress has kind of sold out pretty much all of their shows that ever happened at the Garage and the Electric Ballroom, which is mental to think, given that they're approaching 9 years at this point as well. As the company gained even more popularity, they would take the show on the road, with their first card taking place outside of London at the Ritz in Manchester in December 2015. And then from that point on, the promotion would regularly put on shows outside of London in places such as Sheffield, Birmingham, Newcastle, Bournemouth. The company would also not just be referring to the UK. They've played shows abroad, in particular places like France, Germany, and quite a few tours across the United States as well. Despite mainly operating from the Electric Ballroom, the tours aside, the promotion also held some special one-off, quite big shows as well that saw them reach bigger venues. So the first of which was Chapter 36 in September 2016, where they put on a show at the historic Brixton Academy in front of 2,400 people, which I think they replicated the following year as well. For Chapter 55 in September 2017, it saw the promotion hold its first show at Alexandra Palace in front of 2,000 people, a venue they would revisit several times, including me and Garrod went to a show there. And it would kind of become the main site where they would host their Super Strong Style 16 tournament. As well as that, they've also been known to do festivals as well. So in 2014, they held 3 shows at the Sonosphere Music Festival. I'm a bit annoyed about that because I was at that festival, and the whole thing was they had wrestling as a theme, and I remember seeing a wrestling ring there, but because I was a bit of a know-nothing, I just didn't go check it out because I didn't assume it'd be any good, and I kind of regret that now. In 2015, they also featured in 5 nights at the Download Festival as well, and that was kind of a precursor to what's happening now, where NXT and NXT UK basically run shows there all the time during the festival. And the biggest show to date, however, was on the 30th of September 2018 at the SSC Arena in Wembley in front of 4,750 people. They kind of build it as the promotion themselves sort of billed it as like the largest independent wrestling show in England for 30 years. That did catch them a little flack from other promotions, but I mean, given that they were just a small promotion out of London, to then go on and play the SSC, it just kind of shows how big their popularity took off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any kind of thoughts on sort of the growth? I mean, it's kind of incredible to look at, given that it's within barely 8 years, they went from a 350 capacity venue to nearly getting 5,000 at an arena. It's pretty insane for like what is just essentially an independent wrestling company.
I mean, I've looked at simply putting on a small show with just, friends and whatnot in like an actual venue and hiring actual things. And even just doing that without paying people is still like very costly, even if you try and do like a modest entry price to people. I've seen a lot of promotions that I liked, and one of the best shows I've been to was Lucha Forever Ultimo Battle. Lucha Forever doesn't exist anymore, and there are quite a few promotions like that have kind of got too big for their boots. They went out of business, I think, fairly soon after Ultima Battle. And if you look at the card, you kind of know why.
Did they spend more on talent than they could actually afford, essentially?
Yeah, there was quite a lot of matches. I remember at the end they teased who did they tease? British Strong Style against They just had British Strong Style against CCK, I think. Ooh, CCK and also Speedball, Mike Bailey. Yeah, that is Speedball, isn't it? Mike Bailey.
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
They're like the Karate Kid type guy. And then afterwards, Marty Skrull, Zack Sabre Jr. and someone else came out. I can't remember the name of their stable. It's like London 3000 or something like that. And they teased a thing between them, which I don't believe ever actually happened because, again, a little bit too big for the boots. Never got the shirt from them because I bought front row tickets that came with a shirt. That never happened. Again, just kind of promising things that like you couldn't fulfill. Progress is I sometimes look at the talent there, and I guess perhaps it just comes from me not knowing what the deals are. I was so oblivious to like what they must be paid that I didn't expect when I first time I ever went to a show and I went to a merch table and I look up and it's the wrestler themselves selling their merch. That was confusing to me because growing up with the Undertakers and Rey Mysterios and whatever, I still held a lot of the even indie wrestlers to that regard. Because I'd still seen them wrestle in New Japan, or I'd seen them wrestle at the time on like, you know, smaller things. Well, not small. I'd seen them wrestle on something, whether it be online. And then, you know, looking up and then the wrestler being just there and just like asking you if you wanted a picture with them and things like that. That was weird to me.
Well, while we're on that, should we tell our fun merch story from Progress?
Yeah, we might as well.
I don't know if we've ever mentioned it. Yeah, so it was actually the first show I took you along to, I believe, which might have been my second time going there. So yeah, I got the tickets and I was like, who can I bring? Oh, well, Garrod's still around London. That's fucking just go, man. So he was like, oh man, how much are you for a ticket? And I was like, don't worry, just get me a t-shirt because I'm a massive merch hoarder. Like if I have tickets to a show and I bring you along, just pay me back in a t-shirt. That's typically how it works. So we get there and I was like, I really want a Mark Haskins t-shirt. Now, as Garrod said there, the wrestlers will be out there to sell the merch, but you have to specifically wait. So sometimes they might be at the start of the show, sometimes they'll come out the interval, or sometimes it might be at the end. So it's like you've got to kind of wait to when someone's available. And sometimes it can be the case that they do have someone else doing it for them. Like I've bought merch from people who must be clearly gone along with them to help handle that side of thing. But typically, he's right. You'll usually see the wrestlers there just doing it. So we go approach the merch table, and behind it is Jordan Devlin. So I'm looking at the show and I'm like, I want that one. And Garrod's like, all right, come on, we'll ask him to get one. And I was like, well, no, that's Jordan Devlin. I don't think he's going to sell us a Mark Haskins t-shirt. And he was like, no, I
don't remember you exactly saying. I don't remember you exactly clearing that. I wasn't too familiar with Jordan Devlin at the time, but I did go straight up to him and he was like, oh, hey man, we made a little back and forth, like, how you doing, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, would you like a shirt? And I say, I'd love a shirt. Can I have that one? And I point over at Haskins' shirt and he goes, oh yeah, that's not, you have to wait for Haskins. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I would just walk away.
Cool. And we just walked off, like really awkward. I mean, the way I remember though is he already didn't look very happy to be stood there. He looked a bit angry already. And I don't think it really helped that we just kind of went up and tried to get him this was another dude's merch.
This was before, was this the interval or was this before? I can't remember.
No, this was like right when we got in the venue, because when you go into the Electric Ballroom, you literally just walk down the stairs, and it's right when you get in.
Yeah, I didn't know who he was. I thought he was just a guy helping out. So not the current cruiserweight champion. Now, not then.
Yeah. Well, I just remember I think we both felt very cringe about that, and it just kind of like really irked me about ever going to the merch table again, because we both kind of felt like a bit of a tit for it. But then I finally undid that when they came to Newcastle and I got a picture with him and he was really nice. And then on that same show at the interval, I went to go buy a suplex hat and I did the same thing and asked the wrong wrestlers to sell it to me. So completely undid the fucking bad feelings.
They need to have like big dividers, right?
Yeah.
To say.
Section it off.
How was I supposed to know? I was probably supposed to know.
Yeah. Either way. Yeah, so that's just kind of what it's like.
But yes, the growth, needing a bigger room.
Well, it's like you were saying, like like obviously your story there, like with the whole Lucha thing, like a lot of promotions do get in with the intentions of thinking, if we get this person and that person, we'll see the money back. For Progress, from what I've heard, it took them a ridiculous amount of shows before they even really saw anything to do with a profit. Like, and I think the reason why they might have just made it is like, you got to think at the time, despite the fact they had a Zack Sabre Jr. and a Zach Gibson and a Noam Dar on the show, they probably were able to get them for a lot cheaper because they weren't massively well known then. Like, Zach Gibson has hair on this first show. He'd get to become...
You didn't have to. You of all people can't call him out for that. All right.
He was yet to be Liverpool's number one, so he'd yet to kind of form that character. So I think they were probably lucky in the fact they could get a lot of great talent, and it wouldn't have cost them like a ridiculous amount. And then I think what would have helped is obviously we'll get onto the partnership with WWE must have been a big factor as well. So I think that's probably how they've been able to kind of maintain keeping such a big card and getting more and more bigger names. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, people get into this and just don't realize the cost involved. And I think that's why they think, was there ever another show beyond that Lucha one you went to? Or was that one show?
No, they had a big long catalog of many shows. This was just one of their larger ones. And because I didn't know much about the promotion, there were a lot of like story threads going on. So they were trying for it. I think from what I remember, because I then went to Osprey. I think he took over what was left of Lucha Forever, and he made it Frontline.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know
Pro Wrestling. Yeah. Again, another company that I don't know if they've survived the pandemic. Just going on their socials. They last posted on June of 2020. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure the last thing not the last thing, but I have a quote here from Osprey. It's time for a new start. It's time for a new era, and this one shall last forever, which was a dig at Lucha Forever. However, the pandemic may have ixnayed the Frontline pro.
Yeah. I mean, we'll be discussing that definitely later on, but I think that's a big thing coming out of this pandemic is like, what will the scene be like? Especially because people were already worried what's going to happen to the scene because of the pandemic, and then the speaking out movement happened during the pandemic, so that's just kind of made it even to the point where everyone's a bit like, what the fuck is it going to look like when we can properly return to shows? But I guess it's just a situation of waiting and seeing, huh?
I mean, there are plenty of young, hungry wrestlers waiting, but it's and places like Progress are the kind of places to make those people stars. I mean, they've taken a lot of pretty unknowns and done quite a good job with them. I mean, the Natural Progression series in itself is...
If you hold on to that a second, that'll tie in nicely to what we're going to go over next. Bam. Transitions, you see. We got them.